Well, I'm Cheryl Bryant. That was my husband, Dr. Bryant, that was just up here. And we've enjoyed doing health programs together for many years. And in our medical school days, as we went out to Loma Linda, I ended up working as a medical secretary in the cardiology department. And I really loved my job. And every day I would type history and physical reports on patients that would come in to see the physicians. And I started to see the connection between what people ate and the diseases that they had. And every day I would document someone who had heart disease. And so it started me thinking even more about my own diet. Before we got married, we had planned to basically eat a plant-based diet, but we still ate eggs, we still ate dairy, milk, and so we ate that way for a long time. I grew up on a farm, and so we had meat every day, usually some scrambled eggs for breakfast, sometimes some bacon, all those yummy things that even now, if I smell them, it's like, that smells kind of good. You know, I guess you can't ever have that taken fully away, but anyway, that's how I grew up. My husband didn't have as much meat in his diet growing up, but they did eat some. Well, you know, during medical school, my husband kept learning more about diet and its relation to our health. And so, as we went on in our lives, we started making a few more little changes here and there. And then pretty soon we learned what we could use in place of maybe an egg to bind something together. And then I thought, well, I could do that. I don't have to use an egg. And so we just learned little by little. The changes in our diet were very gradual. And as time went by, we decided, you know, I think Kevin, you know, he came home one day and said, you know, I think really the best thing for us to do is go on a totally plant-based diet. And I said, well, that sounds good to me. So we just went that direction. And so right before we were expecting our first child, we decided to go that route. So, oh my, that's about 29 years ago. So anyway, our son will be 29 next month. And so our changes were very gradual. I've known a lot of people that have made changes much quicker than that. And it's easy to do when you know what to replace things with. It's not that hard. Just like someone quitting smoking, they usually do it cold turkey. You know, they quit and they find other things to replace that with. And it can be the same way with food also. You know, it's such a privilege that as we started raising a family, I realized what a privilege it was to provide good food for my family. And so the kitchen was always kind of the place to be as my kids were growing up. They always were right there, you know, where Mom was. They wanted to be right there. My daughter would always say, Mom, or Mommy, can I make a mix? And I knew what that was going to entail. That was going to be flour and sugar on the floor, and that was going to be a mess. But, you know, and it was going to be these little hard nuggets that came out of the oven. But, you know, it was really a lot of fun. And so today, she loves to work in the kitchen. She loves to cook. She's much more of a put-together throw cook than I am. She does use recipes some, and she actually provides a lot of meals for a lot of young people that she works with every year. And so she's always having people over to her home and enjoying the cooking. Our son likes to cook too, and we've been on the phone with him, and he's looking forward to cooking for us when he comes home. He lives in China right now. And, you know, I brought a lot of staple foods with me today to show you, and a lot of you brought a lot of staple foods also. I wonder if we can name off the five main staples that we probably all use in our home almost every day or every week. What's one staple that you use in your home? Is it Nancy? Nancy, is it Nancy? Can't see too well. What's one staple food do you think that you have in your home? that you use, like to use? Rice, okay, rice, okay. A lot of the planet uses rice every day. I know when we go to China, rice is at every meal. We usually have our little bowl of rice. And it might, for breakfast, you might have that even with vegetables or a little bowl of soup, some kind of little soup dish that sometimes you get for breakfast. And then at lunch, of course, there's always that rice. There's usually tofu, which is made out of soybeans. I've got, I think, a package of that here today. Oh, it got stuck in the fridge. Let's do that.
Kale. Kale would be great in your salad. You could have a kale in your salad. And you can mix it with your chopped salad. You can mix it with your just your regular greens. You could have it in a green drink with some carrots. Carrots, by the way, are great in your lentil soup too. And but kale would be great in the lentil soup along with your spinach flakes. So there's a lot of things that can go right in your lentil soup.
Put a carrot and a potato in my lentil soup, cut it up really tiny. And if you cut it up really tiny, you can cook it just right at the same time and it all gets done at the same time. Let's see, what else do we have? Is somebody watching that rice in the rice cooker evidently takes longer than we thought it did. And so we're not sure we're going to have rice.
Oh, we were going to talk about this, right?
Right. So I put some rice on the stove to cook too, and it ain't going to get done either. So this is cooking on the fly. How many of you have used couscous before? This takes no time, right? All right, so plan B is the lentils are going to go over couscous. Couscous is a Mediterranean grain. It's really tiny, and it cooks up basically instantaneously. You put hot water over it. It's pasta, yeah, that's right, it's pasta. And it cooks up immediately. Now, have you ever had Israeli couscous? I like that. It's bigger. This is tiny little pieces. Israeli couscous looks like almost like tapioca. It's bigger balls. And it takes a little while, but it's pretty cool too. But this we're just going to mix up a little bit. You just add the water and bring it to a boil and let it sit, kind of like instant rice. And you can put any kind of, it's great with beans over it, so like the lentils, that type of thing. So as soon as we're done sauteing this, we're going to put couscous in the skillet. Okay? What else we got?
Now, are you adding those veggies? Is that for the couscous or for the lentil soup?
Put it in the lentils,
Okay.
and then we can. What else do we have here? We've got some other things.
We do. I want to ask a question too. Anybody cook lentils? Do you cook lentils any different? Maybe there's some ideas that you put in lentils that we don't have here. Does anybody have some ideas in the audience that you guys might be different with lentils? Yes, okay, sauteed onions or just add them right in. Now, we don't have onions up here, so we didn't put onions in the soup, but yes, onions are great, a great addition. Bay leaf, yes, bay leaf. So we are working with a limited cover. That was the point today, but bay leaf's a good thing. We'll have a great lentil soup with what we have on the table, which is... We do have an onion, so someone does have an onion here, so we do have an onion. Did you know something about onions? When you cut an onion, a chemical reaction takes place. When we break the onion cells, there's a chemical reaction. Have you ever used your food processor to chop onions? Anybody use the food processor? You know what happens if you do? They will be very bitter because what happens is you're chopping the onion too fine, mixing that up, and the chemical reaction creates an overabundance of this bitter flavor. Whereas when you cut it with a knife, you minimize that chemical reaction. So when you're cooking, you're actually doing chemistry in the kitchen. And onions are a great example of that. But when you heat something, you're changing the chemical properties. When you combine things, there's chemical reactions taking place. So when you're in the kitchen, you're a chemist at work, eating a biochemical. That's what we live on, that's biochemicals. So lots of dextrinizing changes like onions creates a sweeter flavor. If you put them in the skillet and let them heat up and become sugary, you could actually use them in a sweeter dish or some kind of dessert if you cooked it with the right mix. Yes?
When you cut the onion, the root part, I put the beef flask. This gentle pull the never cut off the bottom, and then slice and dice it. Never get tears.
Interesting. So leave the root on and cut it toward the root. Okay.
My tip on cutting onion is just wear swimming goggles.
There you go. Okay, so you're working on couscous.
Actually, let's see, I don't know.
No, you're working on the lentil soup.
I'm actually just still working on lentil soup. I'm working on onion.
Okay, here's another thing we can do here. We have the grain. How many of you have used quinoa? Yes, okay. Many of you have used quinoa. It's easy to cook, cooks up like a rice. And I don't know if there's cooking directions here, but I think it's 2 to 1. It's 2 to 1. 2 cups of water, 1 cup of quinoa. That would be great. You could use that, your lentil soup, over the quinoa if you wanted to have a base for that. We use a vegetarian chicken seasoning and some salt. And we have it for breakfast. My kids would have it every day. Like you do, would have it every day if they could. So it's a great grain. We could also make burgers. You could use some couscous. You could use some rice. You could use the oats, and you could take your lentils the next day if you wanted to, and you could make it into a patty, and you could bake those in the oven, or you could do them in a skillet, like a little bit more oil if you use a skillet, but that's another way you could do that. And then you could use your spaghetti sauce over those burgers, or you could put them as a patty with lettuce and mayonnaise or whatever. We don't have the mayonnaise here, but you could use that over a sandwich. Yes, Al. Quinoa.
Quinoa is an ancient grain and very high in protein. It's considered one of the most complete, it's a very complete food. Who was it that ate quinoa? Aztecs. That was like the grain that they ate. And it's a very nutritious grain. There's all different kinds. There's a red quinoa that's comes in bulk at the health food stores. Okay, we've come up with another plan now. Now while we're cooking this stuff, we've come up with something else. All right, burgers. What if you make your own burger patties? And there's no real right or wrong way to this. You can add just about anything you want. If you've got the New Start cookbook, you will see that there's a page in there that says one-of-a-kind loaves. And basically what it does is you take one ingredient from each of these lists and mix it together, and you can make a loaf for patties. And almost all the patties that I make, the basis of them is oatmeal. And so we've got oatmeal here. And so you use oatmeal, you need some type of binder, and your tofu works great as a binder. So what Sherilyn's doing with this tofu, we're going to do a couple of things with it. She's going to slice some up and put some seasonings on it and bake it. And what do we do with that after we've got it baked?
Okay, we can add that to our lentil soup.
Okay?
Okay. The lentil soup usually turns out a little bit thick, depending on how your lentil soup is. If you like it thicker or runnier, but you can add that to your soup, the lentil soup. And then with the spinach in there or your other greens, it would be really nice with rice. Really nice with rice. So this is really neat tofu. I don't know if you brought this, but it's in 4 little cubes.
Where'd you get it, Alvin? You're the one that brought it, right?
23rd Street.
Asian market?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh.
Somewhere 21st Street. Okay. Amazon and
Oh, right.
It's tied in.
tied in.
She's doing that, and I'm just going to start dumping. So don't ask for amount. I don't know. I'm just going to start dumping. I'm going to put some oatmeal in there. I want some of that tofu.
All right.
I want to put it in my blender.
Okay.
One piece.
Just one piece. Sure. Give me a
Now, where are you putting the tofu in the blender?
So I'm going to make creamy. I'm going to make that.
And this is for the bird, the patties,
And
okay?
now I want some seasoning. So give me a garlic.
Oh, okay. There's some garlic cloves.
There's some cumin.
How about a couple? You want a couple?
Sure, put a couple in there. You like garlic, right?
I like garlic. Let me just take the ends off here.
And what else do we want to put in there? Whatever.
Chili pepper, yes.
Just to add, we're touching up on quinoa. 2013 is the International Year of Quinoa by United Nations.
There you go. So we can be international citizens by eating quinoa this year. We have some plantains here. We're kind of switching a little bit while you're working on the burgers. Anybody use plantains? Someone brought them today. You use plantains. What do you do with the plantains? You like them fried? You smash them, oil in the pan? Plantains are a very starchy food. They're kind of like a potato, and the truth is you can use them similar to potato. You can use the plantains. You could, like you said, you could use them in a soup. You can also use them, steam them, and mash them up and use them as a mashed potato. And they're pretty much like a potato, starchy, sometimes mildly sweet, but not real strong, so they would work as a good mashed potato. You can make them in a sweet soup as well. In the islands, they use plantains, they use some sweet potato, they use some, I think it's cassava and breadfruit, and they put that in a soup. With coconut milk, and that's a sweet soup. It generally is kind of thick because it's full of starch, but it can be very good. If you have a palate for starch, it's a great starchy food. By the way, potatoes are a great food. There was a guy just recently in Washington who ate potatoes for 60 days, and he lost weight. His cholesterol went down, and so potatoes are a great food. It's got a bad rap today because sort of the high protein, low carb diet. But that's a big myth. If you eat potatoes in their natural state, you don't dump a bunch of oil on them. Potatoes are fantastic food. They're one of the staple foods in some countries, potatoes. So potatoes are a great food if they're used naturally, and not doctored up with the butter and that's what makes the potato less healthy. Yes. She uses a Vitamix. And a Vitamix is his kitchen magic machine. So you can blend. In this case, it wouldn't matter if the tofu was real liquidy. You could blend it in any blender and it would be fine. She's just making it a little creamier, so when she adds it to the oats, it'll work as a blender. Did you add water? She did add water, so we just missed it. You had some water to tofu,
I
right?
had some water to the tofu just because, I don't know what I did with my microphone. Because it was this kind of tofu. If it was the water packed, I probably wouldn't have. But water pack would just blend it by itself. If this was like, I added just a little bit. All right, I've added some of the lentils. I stole some of the lentils and spinach and put in here.
That's all right.
I put some nutritional yeast flakes, and I don't know, whatever seasonings we had here. We had some Italian seasoning and basil. We had the garlic, so I didn't add more garlic. I would normally add, could we chop up some more of that onion? And I put that in, and I just put that in there raw. I don't cook it in advance. I just put the raw onion in there. And then we're going to put some breadcrumbs in here. And if you've got a nice blender like this one, like the Vitamix, you can just take bread, just as it is, right? Yeah, just throw it in like it is and make breadcrumbs. And you can add it in here. Now, you can add anything to these. You can add some grated carrots. We do have some more carrots. What else? Who's going to help us here? Okay. You can add some beans. So you can go, we added the lentils. I see some chickpeas. I probably should have used some chickpeas instead because we have the peas here. I didn't think about that. You can make a black bean burger. I might even add some of those in here just because.
So one thing that's really interesting to notice is we're looking at bases. You always have a base when you're looking at building a meal out of your cupboard. You need to have a base. In this case, the base is the oats when you're talking about the burger. So we're starting with the base. We need a binder to hold that together, and then we add whatever. You can add your beans to that. You can add your veggies to that. You can chop up. You can put peppers. You can put onions into that burger. But you have to have a base, and that base is the oats. When it comes to the lentil soup, which is there, the base there is obviously the lentils, and then on top of that you're adding in the ingredients. You can add soy sauce to that, you can add vegetables to that, and so we're looking at base. So when you go into your cupboard and you've got a bare cupboard, you want to start with a base. What kind of base do you have? Is it a bean? Do you have some kind of grain? Do you have some kind of pasta, which of course would be a grain again? What base do you have? You go with that base and then you build from there. If you don't have any bases, then you can look at what's in your refrigerator. You might have potatoes. Potatoes can also function as a base. You could put them in the oven and have a nice baked potato. Add some olive oil and chop up your garlic and some onions and put that in a dish and just put it in the oven and let that cook. That would be a great meal. You're not going to have as much bulk because you don't have one of those solid bases like the beans or the grain, but you're going to have a good meal as a foundation. And so that's what I do when I I'm not sure what to cook. I look at what kind of base do I have, and then I build on that base, and that kind of helps me know which direction I need to go. We have some coconut milk here. Sometimes you have something in the cupboard, you say, you know, I want to use that. Coconut milk is a great thing. What would you use coconut milk for? Anybody here use coconut milk? Hey, what would you use coconut milk for? What do you use? Okay, and what kind of soup are you making? Okay, okay. So you can make like a peanut sauce, peanut soup, yes? You can do curry, coconut. We don't have any curry powder. We did, my wife talked about, and that my wife is laying in the hat, going back and forth with the green sweater, and she's a fantastic cook. She talked about curry. We almost have everything we need for a curry, but we don't have curry powder here. So we're talking about what's on the table, but curry, you could do like a potato curry, so you could use the coconut milk and potatoes for curry if you had the seasonings for it. We have ginger, and ginger and coconut milk and beans make a fantastic island-style peas. Now, I'm not an islander, so if you're an islander here and you know how to make peas, this would be a great way. But you can use to be honest with you, I don't know what kind of beans are used in the islands for the peas and rice. But you could use a pinto bean, and you can cook that with your coconut milk and some ginger and a little bit of salt, and you're going to have a fantastic bean. You can put that over rice. That would be a fantastic bean soup. It would be a fairly filling meal because you've got the coconut fat with your protein in the beans, and then your carbs if you use it with rice, and that would be amazing. One thing to remember is once you put the coconut milk in the beans, they're going to spoil quickly. And so you need to keep that dish warm and then cool it off quickly. If you let it sit on the counter for long, it can go very fast. So for some reason, coconut milk tends to go quickly as far as spoilage. So that's something to keep in mind when you use coconut and beans. This is a salad item. You're going to use it? What are you going to use it for?
salad.
And there's salad. We have mandarins. Mandarins would go great with that salad. I don't know if you're going to put them in, but that would go great with that salad. And
I need you to open it. Oh, I
you got
I need more, I need oatmeal.
more
oatmeal.
oatmeal. Thank you.
Yeah.
See what else we
Is
have.
that good? We'll just set it there. It's too long.
Cut yams. That's a nice way to get your yams, right? Cut. You could use these. I like baked yams. My wife puts some maple syrup on them. We don't know that we have any sugar
Let's see
here
what we
today.
have here. This came with, this comes with nuts or something. Sesame and ginger sauce.
These are done.
Oh, this is good.
No, the onions and
All that tofu that I just sent back to be baked, I put a little bit of salt on there, a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of a homemade chicken seasoning that I really like. It's out of Chinese restaurant. And I put in also a little bit of chili powder. I make a chili powder also. I put a tiny bit of that on. And what else do I put in? Oh, some garlic powder. So we'll just bake that up and then we'll add that when it gets done.
I can't hold the microphone, but I want to tell you, when I make burgers, what I found is I went typing it was Red Death and Beyond, Walmart, you see those egg rings? There's a little handle on it, that's what I make my burgers in. One of those egg rings, you can use a jar lid too, but I like the egg ring because it's got a handle that doesn't get your hand hot. And so I just form them right in that little egg ring, and then as they're beginning to cook, then I smash them out a little bit more, but much easier than what I'm doing right here.
Yes, that's true. This is the messy way that it works.
Probably should have more breadcrumbs in here. I think I did too much with the next one, Paul. They'll get done, they'll get done, be mushier than that.
The chickpeas. We do have chickpeas. How many do you like chickpeas? Yes, chickpeas are good. We don't have any tahini. Tahini and chickpeas make what? Hummus, that's right. But you can make a fantastic almost hummus without chickpeas. We have lemon juice. I'm sorry, not without chickpeas. Without tahini. We have lemon juice. We have chickpeas. And we've got garlic and onion. You can mix those together. Put your chickpeas in a food processor. Normally hummus is very creamy. You can leave the chickpeas, if you put them in a food processor, let them remain a little chunky. And then mince up your onion. Don't food process that because that's going to get bitter. But mince up your onion and your garlic. Mix that together with a touch of salt. And it's a great, you can put that into like a pita. You can put that into a wrap with your lettuce. And so that's another great simple dish that you can use. Even if you don't have all the ingredients, it's going to work for a good meal. Let's see what else we have.
Got all sliced out here. Okay. All right. I hope Asian salad can have tomatoes in it. Because it's going to.
We didn't put any tomatoes in the lentil soup yet. Oh, well,
Fresh tomatoes, yeah. I'm gonna do that. Let's see. We do have some fresh ginger here. We're gonna try some of that in there also. And how about, oh, you know, somebody brought an Asian pear. How about that in our sauce? Asian salad? We'll put it in everywhere. Does that work? Okay.
that's much better consistency.
What did you do?
I think that'll be pretty too.
Okay.
That is a great consistency.
Then why are you adding the breadcrumbs?
Well, because I had it too mushy. The bread's a binder.
Right?
It gives it flavor, but I had it too wet. And so
Okay.
they weren't, so I added more breadcrumbs so they formed it.
So the breadcrumbs are going to absorb some of that moisture. Good. One thing that's sometimes tricky is keeping your patties moist, but not gooey. So you'll have to get sort of your own taste. You may want a little more moisture in your patties. Some people want the drier patty. And so your baking times can affect that. Also, how wet your mix is when you start. And you can change the moisture level by adding more grain or breadcrumbs to absorb that moisture. Breadcrumbs, too many breadcrumbs will leave you with a mushy patty. And so that's, you do want more oats. Breadcrumbs are a great thing to add. But if I'm just saying, if you have too many breadcrumbs, it can get very mushy. And if you like mushy patties, good for you. I'm not a mushy patty fan. So that's just something to keep in mind as you're putting them together. That the oats is an important part of that. So let's see. Is there anything up here that you have a question about, or that you would like us to see if there's something else we can do? But you can see, even with what we had on the table, with what you brought today, there were some extra things that we brought, but with what was brought, you can put together a good meal from what you have in your cupboard. And then if you have the staples that Sherilyn was talking about, your grains, potatoes, beans, those kinds of things, then you'll almost never be in a place where you can't put together a solid meal and until you can make the grocery store make something. Question about anything that's up to you? Yes?
She mentioned wet tofu. She usually uses water. I can use that.
Using the water in the tofu.
No, I was talking about there's two kinds of tofu. There's this water-packed tofu, and then there's
Water-packed tofu, and then there's the silken tofu.
I'm talking about the water-packed. You said you usually use the water. And
No, maybe I misspoke. What I meant was I normally use the silken tofu, and that blends up. It's just softer. And so I usually don't actually add any water. I just felt I needed to, but I think I added too much anyway. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to cook this couscous right in here, just because this is what I've got. And it just takes 2 cups of water, and when that boils, I'm going to add the couscous, and we'll have it right away. And then you can put either the lentils over it, or you can even put your patties over it, whatever you wanted to do with it. Okay.
question?
So when you open the packet of the water pack, are you just putting it in the blender and bringing it, or are you bringing the water off?
I
Rinse
drink
it.
water off the water.
Yeah, it's good to rinse it too. I mean, we like to rinse it.
Yeah, I drink water off of the water.
Do you know what silken tofu is? Okay, silken tofu comes in a box, a small box, and they're about the same size as tofu cubes, and it's called silken tofu. That's good if you're using your tofu in the cream or an ice cream base, or blending it into a mayonnaise, because it comes very creamy. The water packed tofu is any tofu you find that's packed loose in water in liquid like this stuff. And it doesn't blend up as smooth and creamy, so if you're going to make a pudding or something, this will take a little bit more work to get it creamy, whereas the silken tofu is by nature creamy. If you're going to do a stir fry, silken tofu will be like mush, and this will hold up much better. There's another trick with tofu too, and that is if you throw this tofu pack in the freezer, throw it in the freezer, let that freeze solid, then thaw it out and take your red beans and some tomatoes and onions, and that tofu, as it thaws out, will be like a sponge, and you can literally wring it out like a sponge. You wring it out, and then before you let it get its shape back, put it into whatever sauce or soup, put it in. It'll soak up that juice, and it's going to be a little chewier than tofu is without freezing it. So freezing tofu does change the tofu's texture, and so it's a great. You could fry it up. Now frying, we don't want to do a lot of frying, but you can do. You could throw it in and make a stir fry. You could take this salad and skip putting the salad ingredients in, and just use that cabbage salad and with some onions and that frozen tofu. You could do the tofu separate and with some oil and a little bit of salt and your onion and brown that, and then you could add to that your the cabbage, and that would make a fantastic stir fry with your cabbage and tofu. Yes?
And of course, the silken tofu is shelf, the morning tofu is shelf stable.
That's right.
So you can stock that up with your cover,
Right.
whereas the water pack you
Right. That's right. Yes. So silken tofu comes in a sanitary pack, and that can be stored right in your cupboard until you open it. It's fine. Once you open it, of course, you've got to refrigerate it. Whereas the water pack, you always have to keep that cool.
What Cheryl and I were talking about too, we've got these yams. If we were going to be making a full meal, we would just serve these yams on the side with the lentils. So that would be great. Lentils with the couscous or the rice and the salad and the yams. That would make a great meal. So, yeah, you can really complete meal. We put the mandarin oranges in there too. That looks really good.
It's got some Asian hair in there. It's got tomatoes. Let's see, I guess this is one. Yeah, so that's ready to go.
Salad dressing. We don't have salad dressing on the table. How might we make salad dressing? We do have some Italian herbs. That's not going to work real well with this. But you might put some lemon there, or there's a, okay, we do have dressing. We don't have to scramble.
I'm just not going to put that on right now, so whoever takes that home, you can take the dressing.
There you go. You got dressing. But you could do a salad dressing with the olive oil, which is here, and lemon, and then there are some Italian herbs and Italian herb seasoning here. That makes it good. You can just put that in and shake that up, and that's a great dressing to your salad. So anything else? We have split peas up here that are hiding. Those are a good soup. You can cook them up with carrots and onions and make a nice thick or creamy soup depending on how much water you put in it. Any other questions? Maybe there's something up here that you say, man, I wish I could be up there because that's how I would cook this item. Anybody have a question? Yes? These are pimentos. That's right. Yeah. How would you use pimentos? These pimentos are roasted pimentos. I know that we like to use them in a cheese sauce, and so you can pull them out. And then, if you have a Vitamix or a good blender, you can. There's a cheese sauce recipe, I believe, in the Guilt-Free Gourmet Cookbook that uses sunflowers and the pimentos, and makes a fantastic base for like a macaroni that is entirely dairy-free. So that's a great use for pimentos. Yes.
Yes, I was going to say, the cheese sauce that I make, I buy this at Walmart in a big jar, and I divide it into fourths, and I freeze 3/4 of it in little containers, so I've got it ready to go. And I use this and a can of coconut milk,
There you go.
and a few cashews and some seasonings, and thicken it up, and that makes the best cheese sauce I've ever made. So I always keep coconut milk as one of the stock things in my pantry.
Good.
Keep that, I do. And then I buy these, like I said, because it's the cheapest way. You can buy the pimento in the little jars, but this is even cheaper. And then you can divide it up, just drain the water off.
It's great too when the red pepper's going too.
Oh, Oh, the 10 for 10,
When the
yes.
10 for 10, you get the great big red peppers. That's what I usually do. I get them, chop them up, put them in the freezer, then I've got them ready to go for my cheese sauce.
And, you can chop those up and throw them straight into a green salad, and just like they are.
Right.
Matter of fact, I just used almost the last of my last 10 for 10 stash of chopped red peppers in my freezer.
There are recipes online. If you have a whole fat coconut milk, you would chill the can overnight, scoop the fat off the top, and with some sugar and a beater, you can make your own vegan whipped cream. Again, that's not something you feast on every day, but that is a use you can do with coconut milk. The thing is, one more thing, and is the these are excellent in the pitas. So if we did have pitas and we were going to use that garbanzo spread, garbanzo bean mix, you could add these right to your wrap or to your just pulled out of the jar like a pickle, and they're fantastic that way. You can chop them up and add them to the garbanzo mix with the onions and garlic, and have a little extra flavor to your garbanzo spread.
Okay, I think our kids aren't cooking here. We're the breaking things going on.
Nice.
Yeah, I just thought of one more thing about the coconut milk that I've been trying here lately, and it really does make a nice little butter spread. You can use coconut milk. I think it's 3/4 cup of this, a half a cup of water, half a teaspoon of salt, and I use half a teaspoon of butter.
Good.
And then just cook that up. Oh, and 2 tablespoons of cornmeal. Just cook that up for a few minutes and then put it in a blender. Then put it in whatever little dish you want, like for margarine. And it makes a nice, actually, it's very delicious. And it's really nice over vegetables. And if you have, like any kind of vegetable, really. And if you have some left over and you think, oh, I'm not going to get it all eaten up, it's nice to make a fresh batch every week. It'll last a little more than a week, but, it's nice to just make a fresh batch each week if that's what you want to do. But, and you can throw it into, I made salmon put it in mashed potatoes, and I couldn't tell, it was absolutely delicious. I couldn't tell that I had not used, usually I use that, Earth Balance margarine, if we do use some margarine at home, but the margarine or butter I made from the coconut milk, and it was about 2/3 less of calories than margarine.
Straight coconut milk would be fine in your mashed potatoes as well. You could use straight coconut milk and skip the butter altogether.
Yeah.
The sweet potatoes, you could put some onions and a little olive oil into a skillet and caramelize the onions so they get that nice caramely color, real soft. You could then put those in a pan with your sweet potatoes and just bake that in the oven, and that would be on the sweeter side because those sugars would concentrate as the sweet potatoes baked. So they're cooked already. When you put them in the oven, it would just be to concentrate the sugars, and that would make them a little sweeter. Yes.
Back to mashed potatoes, I just really like when I was growing up, my brother would make half turnip, half mashed potatoes.
Very good. Yes, half turnip, half mashed potatoes. Yes, you can try parsnip in that. Parsnip's got a little stronger flavor, but parsnip is in fact, if you're going to do a bacon dish, you could add the parsnip and turnip and potatoes cubed with some carrots and bake that. Another thing that's good is fennel. If you have fennel ball, is a fantastic addition to a baked potato dish. If you just bake the little bit of fennel and then cube up the other turnips or potatoes and then bake that, that's a fantastic baked dish. So.
Well, here's where we're at.
Carolyn, the rice in the kitchen may be cooked, we'll see. The rice in the kitchen may be done. So what we've got here is some lentil soup, and we can put some of this over the rice, or the couscous too, whichever one. You can put that in the casserole dish, somebody can take that home. And that will freeze, if you've got this big thing, you can freeze it if you want to. The tofu, she says, is going to take about another 20 minutes, so I told her to just turn it up just a little bit, and we'll make it as cooked done as it is. You can eat tofu.
Sure. And it may not look done. It doesn't always look well done, but it is done.
So I was looking down.
So I don't know how it's looking back here, but
Doesn't Heidi eat just plain old raw
You know, my daughter does like plankton food. She used to just want to eat it out of the packet. And you know,
I make it spread, salmon spread.
Oh, yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
we do that too.
Maybe like a tomato
Yeah.
salad type thing.
Yeah, in China, let's see, what was that one little hole in the wall place we ate one time? I mean, it was like a hole in the wall place. It really was. I mean, you walk by and you wouldn't even realize it was there, and then all of a sudden you notice this little door and you go in and it was near where our son lived. And they served us, they just took some tofu, made slices of it, and then they had it on a little plate, and they sprinkled a few onions on top, and then they served us tomatoes with it, with sugar. And that was really new to us. I never liked salt better, but it was okay. It was okay. But that was kind of our little appetizer. It was just the little blocks of tofu with the onions. So, yeah, my daughter, she doesn't mind foods that are good for her. So she would do that too when she was at home growing up. She'd try it that way. I'm just adding a little bit of celery here to our Asian salad. The longer I'm up here, I keep seeing things I should add. So we'll just keep going here. Keep thinking, oh yeah, I should have done that. You could add this pepper to it, I suppose too, but it's so beautiful, I think I'm just going to leave it intact. So whoever brought that can just take it home. But thank you for bringing that. I'm not sure who brought that, but we won't get to use absolutely everything, of course, that you brought today, but we really appreciate what you brought. And it's been interesting to see how we can put it all together.
And make sure you grab your item before you
Yeah,
leave.
we
Because
wanna make sure you
don't
get
have a
back.
place to store this. So.
Get back with your food.
Anything else you have questions on? I think we're ready to wrap up. Yes, Tom. Bananas. Yeah, you could use them on a sandwich. You could, I don't know.
Smoothie.
You could make a smoothie, yes. We could make a smoothie, yes. We got the kale. We've got apples.
Oh, we can make a green smoothie.
Oh,
You could make a green smoothie, yes. You've got the carrots. So yes, you can make a green smoothie. We're gonna do
Yeah,
it.
that'd be good. And then,
Any other questions?
then I would just bake it a little bit more. Yeah, the lentils and vegetables could use a little more baking. So just, yeah, that would be delicious.
Those be a loaf.
We'll have a little loaf there.
You've got a whole meal.
I mean, I've never done this. You can with the bananas. You can also put them in a pan and caramelize bananas too. So that's something I've never tried. I know that it can be done. So.
Okay. Should we make a green smoothie or not?
Do we have time? Because we're wrapping up about 3:30. So I think we do have time for a green smoothie. Any other questions?
Put a couple bananas in there.
Okay. Looks like the questions are answered. Okay, so
What did we have?
we have kale,
Oh,
apple.
it needs to be washed.
That's kale, yes.
It is kale, but if we could have it washed really quick, I didn't actually wash.
I'll make green smoothies. You really can't taste the green in a smoothie, so if you get by the green color, you're really just tasting what you've got in here. What else do we have? We have some other fruit. Let's pick a fresh one. You've got a mango. I know they're tangy. Good.
Yeah, I hope that one's a good one. Yeah.
An apple. An apple.
Okay. Yeah, let's do it.
Throw some ginger in there.
Ginger.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to put that in the down.
Yes.
Yeah, I know, I was forgetting something. Oh, there we go. There we go. Let's do that.
I open the top of it, but I like to do it coconut milk cans is open it from the bottom because it always, the water always settles, always splashes everywhere.
Okay, let's see what happens. We're going easy on the ginger. We can always add more. So,
Yeah, don't forget the green.
and the greens are,
Oh, yeah, we're gonna flood this red can.
okay. Great.
I have plantains in there too.
Good. All right. This is Tick. Well, I think that wraps it up. Do you have anything for us before we
You
finish?
might just want to think how this could be cold. It'd be a much better chill. It's not, it's kind of warm actually.
There's no ice in it,
There's
so
no ice in it, so think cool. Quiet, quiet.
have a good week and stay warm.